Okay, so get this. So people sound investigations. They did a sound investigation, and they got this guy he works for the CIA. And so listen to what happened. Watch this.
Gavin O'Blennis is a contracting officer at the CIA. O'Blennis worked for the FBI in 2021 and 2022 in the San Diego office, moved on to Homeland Security where he conducted asylum interviews at the southern border, and now works for the CIA managing multi-million-dollar contracts across government agencies and private sector vendors.
I work for, how do I put this without, I'm not supposed to tell people kind of job. If I say intelligence, what do you think? CIA? Yep.
Oh, you work for the CIA?
I do.
Okay, well, move over Austin Powers. This guy probably is the single worst secret agent in the history of deep cover espionage. Jesus Christ. Did they accidentally swap his cyanide pill with sodium pentothal?
Yeah, I hear he wrote the nuclear codes on the back of a napkin at the end.
There's no chance that the guy you're talking to might have a secret camera, right? Jesus Christ. Is spy school now an online course, for fuck's sake?
Listen, when a fella's trying to get laid, he'll say all kinds of things.
That's what it sounds like. Yep. So here we go. Watch the things he says.
That's incredible.
I'm a contracting officer.
That's amazing.
So I deal a lot with like different agencies. We're contracting with like Director of National Intelligence to do stuff. We do Navy, Army, any of them really. FBI. I used to work for the FBI, so they threw the FBI at me. They're like, here, you used to work there. Oh, I'm permanent. I said, yeah.
Good. Well, why do they call it contracting?
Because I do the contracting for them. I do all the legal contracts. I fly out to vendors and evaluate them. I love the agency.
Good for you.
I like the Bureau, too. The Bureau was a lot of fun. I got to do a lot of cool stuff with the Bureau. I was the guy in the back of the truck in the van.
O'Blennis spoke to an Undercover Sound Investigations reporter about his work experience involving near entrapment and his employer's involvement with political commentator Alex Jones's legal battles.
As long as
So here comes the good part. Here's the juicy part.
Bureau is able to progress far enough to be able to put pro-lifers in jail whenever they want.
Yeah.
You think that's on the agenda?
You can kind of put anyone in jail if you know what to do.
How?
You set them up.
You can put anybody in jail if you know what to do. How? We set him up. I don't know. Does that make you think of a kidnapping of a certain governor? Where there were 11 guys in a van and 9 of them were FBI? You remember that? So they do that stuff all the time. January 6th, same thing. We set him up. Well, here he goes. He's got more to say.
You create the situation to where they have no choice but to act on their impulse. And once they act on that impulse, then we call that entrapment. It's a fine line.
It's a fine line. It's a fine line how he wiggles his hands back and forth.
Does the Bureau practice entrapment a lot?
We get really close.
Not officially.
No. We get as close as we can. We get as close as we can to it without doing it.
So they can entrap some of these pro-lifers into doing things that they don't.
Yeah. We call it a nudge.
A nudge.
A nudge. Sometimes you just gotta give them a quick little, just to see what happens, right?
And how does that happen?
You put a post out there, or you have someone fake profile say something that triggers, that we know is going to trigger them, right? Like, we already know your history. If we're to that point, we already know everything about it. So we're like, oh, this will piss them off.
Oh.
Sometimes you light the fuse and just wait for it to follow, right?
Like a rally. So when a rally happens, that's sometimes the Bureau behind it?
Yeah, sometimes. Nothing like putting out a fake social media thing to like really get people mad.
So the intelligence communities are putting out fake social media posts. I thought that made you a terrorist.
Spreading dangerous misinformation.
They're doing it to incite people on purpose. That's the point of them doing it.
Well,
Post fake news.
That is what they did in Newburgh, and the judge released. Newburgh, there were 4 guys after 9/11.
Oh, that's right.
The FBI just manipulated these petty criminals into planning terrorist plots that they were not seriously going to do. They were talking shit, and the judge actually released them and exoriated the FBI and called the FBI the main conspirator.
That's right. I remember that.
Sometimes it's not fake. It's embellished a little bit.
Who would be like a big influencer that you're after? You're like a, I don't know, like I don't even know these names. Like a Fox News person, or like a Tucker Carlson, or like.
Oh, I'm sure he's on the radar, right?
Well, not only is Tucker Carlson on the radar, but we know they were surveilling his texts and using it against him. The NSA. We know that.
Well, Glenn, when we interviewed him, I asked him this question because, we were talking about Assange.
Glenn Greenwald, you mean?
Yeah, Glenn Greenwald. We were talking about Assange, and we were talking about Steve Donziger, the lawyer who sued Chevron, whose life has just been completely destroyed. And I said, hey, Glenn, if you are an effective dissident, if you are an effective activist, can you still be free, really, or are they going to destroy you? And he said no. He said if you really get to them, they will destroy you.
I mean, look what they did to Russell Brand, and all he did was have a YouTube show that got popular.
Yep. Oh, hang on. A really good-looking movie star had a lot of crazy sex with a lot of women. I'd never have imagined.
Never would have thought.
I never would have thought that. Oh. Some of them were not happy that it didn't evolve into something more. I mean, we can't say for sure what happened there, but somebody.
Well, we can say this is that all those people were anonymous. None of those people approached the police or the news agencies to complain about anything. It was the exact opposite, and nothing has come from it ever since. Not one criminal charge, not one civil case, nothing.
Nothing was pursued.
Nothing.
But now he's off YouTube.
Now he's still on, but they demonetized him. And they trashed his reputation, which was the point of that.
Right. So that anything he says has, Matt Taibbi calls it, they put the ick on you.
The ick on you,
right?
Exactly.
So anything you say is suspect now.
The biggest and loudest. Like that, what was his name? The one that said the Sandy Hook didn't happen.
Alex Jones.
Yeah, so we were after him.
You are? Are you still after him? Why?
Because he's broke. He got found guilty and had to pay like $100 million.
So why were you after him?
We're not anymore.
Just to get the money from him?
Yeah.
Was that court case used? Was that a CIA
Sure
thing?
was.
That was an agency thing?
Well, actually it was a defamation case. So it's a civil, not government. But we were looking at all of his followers, commenting, following, like, who's that going to lead us to, right? So even though it's technically not not the agency, definitely, but the Bureau, for instance, that's not our purview. It's a civil matter. But since they got all this access to his stuff and it's there, what can we go find?
And did you find anything?
I can't tell you if we did. But, so, it's just kind of like, realize the opportunity that you have.
So with Alex Jones, you were watching him long before anything ended up happening.
Probably. It wasn't my office, but, I mean, we would have been well aware of what he was doing.
And the goal with him was what? Just to bankrupt him?
Pretty much. And we let the families do it.
What?
We let the families do it.
Were they encouraged to do that by the Bureau? Like nudged?
We don't encourage people, but like we just say there's no federal statute being broken, but you do have the option for a civil case, and it's a pretty good case.
Nice.
In our opinion.
So, that makes so much sense. I have a cousin who's a lawyer, so that's a lot of these cases. They're kind of encouraged by the FBI.
Yeah, like there's nothing federal law we can do, but civilly, you can go at them that way and chop his legs off.
And they did. Yeah. So the FBI was happy.
We didn't care. We were like, oh.
Basically, the citizens did your job.
Yeah.
Wow, so you can encourage a civil lawsuit.
Not encourage, educate.
What can you do with people like Alex Jones now? Because he's still out there. Yeah. He's still chirping.
He can chirp.
They still watching him?
Yeah.
Why?
He did what we wanted.
Which was what?
We took his money away. We shut him up for a while. You're never going to shut him up permanently.
Unless you put him in prison.
But again, he didn't do anything to go to prison. Being ignorant is not a crime, though it should.
It is. I mean, what you could bring a nudge.
He didn't incite a riot like Cheeto. He didn't encourage people to go shoot people. He didn't do anything.
Additionally, O'Bleness states that he knows and works with FBI agents who were undercover in the January 6th Capitol riot, estimating about 20 field agents were there undercover. While O'Bleness notes that they were not involved in violence, this appears to be the first admission of undercover FBI agents in attendance.
I thought you said that there were FBI agents in the crowd at J6.
There always are when there's a big protest in D.C. Just in case it gets out of hand like that. But there wasn't enough to turn that tide. I mean, I'm talking they maybe have 20. You needed 1,000 to get rid of that crowd.
So they had like, that was just 20?
Yeah, just to go through it.
Well, I like how he pretends like the FBI were there trying to discourage the crowd. Okay.
See what I can hear, that kind of thing.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. They needed 1,000 at least.
Well,
Wow.
see, that's also Capitol Police jurisdiction. They're in charge.
So
Why they didn't have more on hand, I don't know.
The Bureau didn't really want people knowing that they were in the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
That would be overstepping their bounds.
A little bit.
Do people know that?
Why?
Did people know that the Bureau was in the crowd?
Nope, and probably never will.
Do you know agents that were there?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, they work for the agency now.
So there you go. And here's Elon Musk. Concerning. Concerning, Elon Musk. Concerning. Now, this guy definitely worked for the FBI and the CIA. How much he actually knows, I mean, is suspect. Like when he says there's 20 FBI guys. Here is Clay, what is this guy? Clay Higgins. So here he is interviewing, I think it's the head of the FBI, I think, and listen to what he says.
Does the FBI have confidential human sources? Did the FBI have confidential human sources embedded within the January 6th protesters on January 6th of 2021?
Well, Congressman, as I'm sure you can appreciate, I have to be very careful about what I can say about when.
Even now, because that's what you told us 2 years ago.
May I finish? About when we do and do not, and where we have and have not used confidential human sources. But to the extent that there's a suggestion, for example, that the FBI's confidential human sources or FBI employees in some way instigated or orchestrated January 6th, that's categorically false.
Did you have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters inside the Capitol on January the 6th prior to the doors being open?
Again, I had to be very careful.
It should be a no. Can you not tell the American people, no, we did not have confidential human sources dressed as Trump supporters positioned inside the Capitol?
Gentleman's
January
time has
6th?
expired.
You should not.
Can't say no.
Right.
So that's all I want. And there are hundreds of them. Well, here's what he says. Here's what he says.
Say that there were FBI assets in the crowd, in the building beforehand and certainly outside. What's the scale of this? You're talking like 10, 20?
No. Based upon some very conservative, but like hard investigative effort, evaluation of the numbers from putting together eyewitnesses and videos and affidavit statement and whistleblower statements and court records that have been revealed through individual criminal cases where J6 defendants have been prosecuted and smart attorneys have forced admissions by the DOJ and the FBI, but those admissions have been sealed within the parameter of that criminal case by the judge, so I can't share them, but I've seen them. So real hard, objective, and conservative estimates would put the number of FBI assets in the crowd, outside, and working inside at well over 200.
Over 200. So anyway, there you go. They targeted Alex Jones. They give people nudge. You can put anybody in jail you want to. And he knows. So that guy might not be in a position to do any of those things. That guy who was talking, but he knows about them. He works with them.
Well, this is always the question with these, and we talked about this a little bit when we covered the last O'Keefe video. It's a little difficult when you're always recording these almost of necessity. These are honeypot operations. The guy's trying to get laid. So how much is the guy bragging and inflating his own knowledge and his own insiderness? That having been said, we know of cases like the case in Newburgh where we know the FBI absolutely did things like this. There's no question. Thing. And the Governor Whitmer, yeah. So we know they manipulate suspects and they entrap people. Look what they've done to Julian Assange.
Yeah.
So it's not even a question that they actually do this. In terms of people in the crowd, yeah, I remember, I used to drive a horse and carriage in New York. And when you're in a crowd at Rockefeller Center or one of these main areas, we would be by like the Plaza Hotel. There are undercover cops. You just don't know it. Because once in a while, these drivers, a lot of them were pretty rough characters. They'd get into a fist fight. And all of a sudden, these people who are sitting there reading newspapers, they pull out their badges. Yeah. So you've got infiltrators around all the time, and people are just not aware of it. So yeah, I would say the 200 number is probably more accurate, but that guy seems a little more credible than the guy in the restaurant. Not that guy wasn't telling the truth, but he definitely also seemed like he's trying to get, trying to get a little nookie.
These gay guys trying to get laid. They got the chatty Cathys.
Yeah.
Come see us on tour. We're going to be in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Cortland, New York, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Vancouver, British Columbia. First show sold out. Denver, Colorado, Ashland, Virginia, Athens, Georgia, and Minneapolis. We're coming back to Minneapolis. If you couldn't get tickets last time, there'll be some available this time. We're doing 2 shows. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.